Bismillah. 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 Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. حي على الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. Before we start, inshallah, we can have everyone to move up closer, inshallah, so that we can have space for everyone. Inshallah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا Muhammad. Praise is truly Allah's. We we praise Him, we begin by praising Him, we seek His help, and we ask His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of ourselves and our bad actions. Whomever Allah guides, none can lead astray. And whomever He leads astray has no one else to guide him. I testify that there is no God but Allah alone, without any partners, and that Muhammad is His servant and messenger. Allah bless Muhammad and give him peace with his folk and companions until the end of time. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So we begin here in the name of God, and as we go through the post-Eid celebrations, we celebrate the Hajj of the pilgrims to Mecca, the sacred house of God, the Kaaba, and we celebrate that journey for those that are going. And we ask Allah to give safeguarding and a safe way back home, inshallah ta'ala, to their respective homes. Right? But for us here, Eid celebration is something that's very interesting. We have to recognize, why do we celebrate in the first place? We don't celebrate just for the sake of celebrating. Right? We have to go back to what this particular Eid talks about, this particular holiday talks about. Interestingly enough, in the English language, when you say the word holiday, you think about Christmas, you think about Easter, you think about Valentine's, you think about the holidays that you see. But the root word of holiday itself comes from holy and day. And you see towards the holidays of today in society, what makes them holy in the first place? Right? And so our job as believers is to bring back the holy in the day. Right? That's what we need to do. We have to sanctify the days of God. One of the ways that we sanctify God is for this specific Eid, this specific holiday, this Eid al-Adha. We'll get to breaking down what Eid means and what Adha means, because these are very important in the way we celebrate. Okay. We recognize that there is a takbir. There is the proclamation of the greatness of God. We say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. We say that God is greater. Allah is great. Allah is the greatest. Allah is greater than whatever my mind can perceive. Whatever I'm dealing with, God is greater than that. Whatever my body can hold and withstand and withhold, Allah is bigger than that. Whatever I'm dealing with, Allah is bigger than that. Right? These days are the days of proclamation, of recognizing God's blessings upon us, of recognizing our forefather Ibrahim and our foremother Hagar, peace be upon them both, and what the example they brought about through the way of the rites that happened, that moments of the great sacrifice of Ismail, peace be upon them all, towards that was substituted for a ram. Okay. So something really interesting in these days, there's a narration of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where it states that these are the days of eating and drinking. These are the days of celebrating. There's another narration. These are the days of eating, drinking, and remembering Allah. Another narration. These are the days of eating, drinking, and enjoying yourself with your spouse. You think about that and think about these days, specifically the 3 days after the Eid. There's a lot of things going on. The parties, the celebrations, the gatherings that we're having together. But a bigger question, a prefacing question before we even start is, why deem it special in the first place? Why is Eid al-Adha special in the first place? Even before that, there's a demeanor that sometimes for us believers, us Muslims, that we don't sometimes really take into account. The way we celebrate, you look to other celebrations, you look to Christmas, you look to other holidays that are around in society, you see it's very commercialized, and it's very big and very celebrated and lots of fun. Perhaps for the immigrant Muslim community, that they've experienced that fun, they've experienced that nostalgia, that memory of gathering together. I know in Indonesia, you have the fireworks light up the eve of Eid, all of these things, a very communal experience, a very wholesome experience. The challenge for us here in the US, in Koreatown, is how are we celebrating? How are we creating these memories? Right? Because perhaps I have these memories for the parents, but for my children, how are they recognizing how important these days are, this Eid is? Or do they not even deem it important? It's just any other day. Is it just any other day where I can't even call my boss to ask for an off? I can't call for time, right? What are we putting for this day? So Eid, we go back to that. Eid itself, the meaning of Eid comes from the Arabic, Adha ya'ud, to return. As how we experience Eid every single year, an annual Eid. This is an annual event. But there's a question that's begged. There's a question that has to be asked. Where are we returning to? Ask ourselves that question. Where are we returning to? There's another ayah. There's another verse in the Quran. God says, فَأَيْنَ تَذْهَبُونَ? We ask this question, where are we returning to? That other question that God poses upon us is, where are you going? Where are we going? Where are you going as a family? Where are you going as a community? Where are we going as a community? Where am I going as an individual? Where are we returning to? Right? There's also another Quranic two Quranic verses, Inna ilayna iyabahum thumma inna alayna hisabahum. That indeed we are returning, that indeed to us we shall return. Us meaning God. We are all returning to God. Inna alayna hisabahum. And upon God is His right to see and take accountability, not to take accountability, but to take reckoning. What have we done in this life of ours? Right? So these are the days of God. Right? There's a couple of ayahs that talks about sanctifying these rites and the signs of God. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ حُرُمَاتِ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. That is so. And whoever honors the rituals of Allah, it is best for them in the sight of their Lord. Another ayah, this is all you can search in the Quran. It's in the chapter of Hajj. The chapter of Hajj. Another following ayah, another following verse down the line. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. That is so. And whoever honors the symbols of Allah, it is certainly out of the piety of the heart. So it's not mostly about the doing. It's not about what I do, I don't do, but how am I being? Where is my heart at? Right? Because the crux of a true believer, the crux of the believer becoming beyond the Muslim, becoming the mu'min, and then continuing on the muhsin, the Muslim being the one who submits. That we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, that we proclaim and testify that there is none worthy of worship except God, with a capital G, Allah. And then we proclaim that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the servant of God. And we follow that tradition. Right? That's the submitter. But the believer, that next step is we truly take it into heart. Are we taking these meetings into heart? And then the muhsin is the one who does and goes above and beyond. The one who is said by the Prophet, peace be upon him, that when they pray, ihsan, that comes from the word excellence. You pray as though you see God, but in our sight, in our current state, we don't see God. But know that God sees you. And to be present in that, to be present in the divine presence, that's ihsan, that's that next level. Right? And that's what Eid al-Adha calls for. The Eid is to return from what we've been doing. Where are we returning to? Right? It said that the accepted deed by Allah is when we stop from a deed that takes us away from Allah and it returns us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, we have a bad habit. For those of us that have these bad habits, for example, I may be using bad language to one another. I may be drinking. I may be not praying the 5 daily. I may be needing to work on my relationship with God. Right? I may have to sacrifice that. And that's the great sacrifice that Abraham and Ismail and Hagar went through. What is that great sacrifice? That Abraham, after these many years, we look into the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he really wanted a child. Right? He really wanted a child. And then God granted him and blessed him with a child, but then God commanded him that you have to do what you have to do, as seen in the dream, to sacrifice that child. You think to yourself, something that I really love, something that I'm obsessed with. Check to yourself, ask yourself, what am I truly obsessed with? Can I not let go of my phone? Can I not let go of my destructive habit? Can I not let go of this passion or this love? Right? Because God says, that you will not attain righteousness until you truly give away, you truly give in charity what you truly love. And so that question is, what do I truly love in this world? And can I sacrifice that for an ultimate love, which is the love of Allah, which is the love of God Almighty? Right? So number one, we talked about the Eid and how we have to return. And we have to recognize, where are we returning to? We're returning to God Almighty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, we have to recognize, if Abraham had to go through an ordeal with his son Ishmael, we at this very moment are Ibrahim. What is our Ismail? What are we sacrificing? Because we have to sacrifice our time. We have to sacrifice our passions, perhaps. We have to sacrifice our efforts. We have to sacrifice our energy. We have to sacrifice our quote-unquote love. What do we love here? And what do we truly love as an everlasting love? Okay. And that answer is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so those things have to be kept in mind. The idea of returning back to Allah and the great sacrifice, what are we sacrificing for? And how do we cultivate that? How do we cultivate the feelings of Eid? Because we don't want to go to the end extreme of where the Eid is just promoted and advertised on a Hallmark gift card and just say Eid Mubarak and call it a day. We want to go beyond that. We also don't want to fall in the trap of where we don't even care about this Eid. That my children, they don't feel it. I don't even feel it. Right? This Eid is like any other day. So for us, it's to find that balance between the commercialization of a Hallmark Eid and the neglect of what Eid is about in the first place. Right? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to get these feelings of Eid for us and for our communities, that we truly recognize what our great sacrifice is, as how Abraham did with his son Ismail, that we can truly perceive what our Ismail is in moving أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Present your heart, seek forgiveness and solace in Allah in this very moment, and seek Allah forgiveness, seek His forgiveness for your loved ones, for He is Allah, the ever forgiving and the ever merciful, for Allah is the one that is always and oft repenting, accepting of repentance of His servants. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم. Just to recap the 2 points that we talked about in terms of moving beyond a hallmark Eid. Number 1, the great sacrifice of Abraham was Ismail. We ask ourselves that same question: what is our great sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is your Ismail? What is my Ismail? What is our Ismail as a community? Right? Perhaps it can be the shedding away of using bad language. Perhaps it can be the shedding away of mistreating others. Perhaps I need to put more effort into really being intentional of the way I see my fellow Muslim, I see my fellow brothers and sisters, and not just my fellow brothers and sisters, but also all of humanity. How am I treating the people around me? How am I treating all of creation around me? It's very important of how we move and do and be as Muslims. Right? My lack of my daily 5, we need to see what is our sacrifice. Number 2 is that this Eid is about returning. We ask ourselves that question: where are we returning? Where are we going? We always say when someone passes away, that is haq, as truth. Cold hard truth. Where are we returning? Indeed, we belong to God, and indeed we will return to God. Instill that with yourselves. Instill that with this community. That Abraham had Ismail, but Allah was trying to teach Abraham that truly Ismail is going to go back to us. He's going to go back to God. Ibrahim, you're not going to have Ismail forever. You're going to go back to God. So we have to see to ourselves, how are we returning to God? Right? And so those 2 are there. How are we doing this? What should we do as a community? What should I do as an individual? Number 1, start with yourself as an example. If you want to make the Eid joyous, be joyous yourselves. Put that example in place for the parents here. If you feel happy already for the Eid, for this Eid al-Adha, check your feelings with your children. How are they feeling? Is it just any other day? Or is it a day where they're looking forward to it? Right? Some things to really plant into motion of creating these sentiments of nostalgia that we have perhaps in Muslim majority countries and back home, or how we're trying to make home here, is, for example, taking that day off, spending some time with the family, catching up with one another. Perhaps you didn't catch up with some other distant relatives or friends or loved ones. Text them, give them a phone call, set up an appointment, set up a date where we can enjoy food together, right? In the tradition, in the Islamic tradition, there is encouragement to spend money upon our young ones. You know the money gun that you see, Sufi? Spend money. We need to do that. Because the idea is, when else are we going to feel this happiness? When else are we going to feel this feeling of joy for the day, especially of the days of God? That's very important. One thing that was mentioned by a teacher is that from the acts of worship that is neglected, is forgotten, is to be happy this day, on these days. We have to check our feelings in the age of feelings, right? You have to see that feelings are also important. Allah created these feelings, right? Be happy that Allah allowed you to be here, that Allah honored you to be at this very moment. But also, be regretful of the things that you are ashamed about. Right? So both feelings are valid. Right? Being Muslim is not robotic. Both feelings are invalid. Right? And last but not least, number one, start with yourself. Number two, don't commodify the Eid to where it's become a normalized thing of where, to the extent, the extreme of how we see holidays in society today, and make it into any other holiday. But we also need these sentiments. We also need these feelings of joy, of graciousness, of mercy upon each other, of gratitude. We need to cultivate these nostalgic sentiments that we have, inshallah, with our families and our communities, of what Eid can truly feel like for us as an individual and the community, for us turning ultimately not to our desires, not to society, but towards the final true sacrifice towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our sacrifices. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that as we imbibe the Abrahamic legacy, we also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to make it easy for us to see what our Ismail is in our lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to make it easy for us to truly celebrate this Eid with our friends and our families and our communities. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us, to have mercy upon us, and to accept us during these days. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiveness for our communities, for our families, for ourselves. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the best of this world, the best in the hereafter. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. And we seek protection from your fire. وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى سَيِّدِنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقيم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة. قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. Still istaqimu, straighten the lines, fill in the gaps, inshallah. We have brothers and sisters coming in, inshallah. Do be considerate of the space that we have. استحضروا عظمة الله في قلوبكم. Have the presence of Allah in your hearts. Allahu Akbar. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. Assalamualaikum. Just a couple of announcements, inshallah. Jummah Mubarakah and happy Eid Mubarak for everyone, inshallah. Number one, class Being Muslim is on break for 2 weeks and we'll be back on 21st. So, for those that want to attend, this class is specifically for new Muslims and also Muslims that want to learn Islam from ground zero. right? From the faith fundamentals, for those that want to revisit and want to refresh upon what they're learning about, we're using the book Being Muslim. That's every Saturday from 11:30 till the DZUHUR prayer, inshallah ta'ala. That we'll continue that on the 21st, inshallah. Number two, there is from the community, there's a relative, the name is Bapak Sumarko bin Mamun, which is the relative of Ibu Yani Asad. So he passed away. So we'll make dua, inshallah. We'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين. اللهم اغفر له وارحمه وعافيه واعف عنه. اللهم لا تحرمنا اجره ولا تفتنا بعده فاغفر لنا وله ولجميع المسلمين والمسلمات الاحياء والاموات انك سميع قريب مجيب دعوات وقضاء الحاجات. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him, to have mercy upon him, and to accept him in these blessed days, the days of yours, Ya Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give and grant patience and steadfastness to the family, to the community that are going through this ordeal. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with him and not to be against him upon his reckoning. And we ask Allah so that he enters Jannah Firdaus, to paradise without any reckoning at all. And last but not least, there's this Jummah meal. Barakah has been provided by our brother Pedro. He's here. Say your salams. I think it's his birthday. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase him and bless him even further and make him towards good, towards the family, towards the community. Ya Rabbal Alameen. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from him. Ya Rabbal Alameen. Walhamdulillah. Are there more announcements, Sean? Okay.
Check. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Itu barak to everyone. Also, may Allah accept all your sacrifice, your ibadah, your everything. Inshallah, may Allah accept and give us barakah. Inshallah. Another little announcement. Inshallah, that during the Hijjah, we do some activities. We have lecture from the Ustad from Indonesia, Ustad Sahroni, and alhamdulillah we have a good attention from the community. Also, like what the Khatib said, that during the Eid we have to make sure it's not just another day. We do a barbecue on this during the Eid day. Alhamdulillah, we also get attention. Thank you very much for everybody that already donate. May Allah give us reward, inshallah. Also, to make this one also special, especially for the youth, we will do camping, inshallah, starting tonight till the Sunday. If you want to join, you can attend, just stop by. Inshallah, the main session will be on Saturday. Also, we will have lecture with Ustad Sahroni over there, around JUGA and ASHAR prayer, inshallah. So another one that we will have garage sale, to improve our relation with our community around here. So inshallah, prepare, clean up your closet, that you have something, clothes, shoes, and anything that you don't no longer use it anymore. You can bring it, inshallah, you can bring it here till, inshallah, starting Monday. Inshallah, no, not Monday, on the next week, inshallah. Also, another one, we will have a summer camp for our kids here in this masjid on the 21st of the July, inshallah. So get ready to our children that there is 3 days, and then inshallah the detailed announcement will announce it later also. Also make sure give generous donation to our masjid. Our masjid is the well-being of our masjid depend on you guys, inshallah. We have just a couple project, the stair project, we have internet project, we will have the camera security project, so it cost us around $4,000. So inshallah, $4,000 is small money if if we chip in little bit here and there, inshallah. So again, donate generously. We have put the box over there. We have also up there. There is Zelle, there is PayPal, and so on. A credit card in the donation center right there, inshallah. Thank you very much again. Jummah Mubarak, Eid Mubarak. Okay, also if you have friend or any Muslim or any other, if you have question or anything, you can contact us. Inshallah, we will share via the social media. So Instagram Masjid At-Thohir. Yeah, you can put it in Instagram. We will answer by check on us, inshallah. Again, thank you very much. And again, the lecture of the Onas for New Muslim 101, is not this Saturday, correct, Onas? On the 21st, not this Saturday. So, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Again, happy birthday Pak Pedro who bring the food for us, inshallah. Enjoy the food, inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Insyaallah Fajar prayer, sholat subuh masih jam 4.45. Sholat subuh masih jam 4.45 IM. Sekali lagi kita membutuhkan sekitar 10.000 untuk memperbaiki internet, komputer, dan kamera untuk security. Terima kasih. Jazakumullahu khairan.